to be like,
what a weird child.
so I'm like, oh, will you list your house with my parents? You know, so I'm like, oh, Dumont Street. I'll tell you exactly how to get there. You make a left here and a right there. And I was like, you know,
and if you're looking to buy,
I'm like, yeah, apparently your car looks pretty. And then the guy goes, well, what about this? And then I see the dick come out.
Oh my God.
4th grade. And I go, and I turn around and I cover my eyes. And then I'm like, kind of tell my sister, and we both decide like we're not going to tell anybody. And then I eventually think I told my older siblings and my brothers, and they were like, my mom's like, what's wrong? Like I was really like weird that day. And so do
you remember his face? I just want to go back to that really quick.
Because I mean, I remember just.
You saw the little head of the dick popping up over the window, like where the window was?
Like, it was like he was in the driver's seat and he was leaning over the passenger, and then I was on that side. So then it was
so
like maybe he had a jacket on. I don't know what he had. But then the cops came over to interview me, and I remember they're like, do you know what he's wearing? And I'm like, I think overalls. And then I thought, there's no way his dick could get through the overalls. I don't know why. So they were like, what about cars? And so my brothers were bringing out car magazines, and I'm like, I don't know what kind of car.
Was it like long and skinny, pink?
Yes. So like
shade of pink.
So then they said, well, if that ever happens, write down the license plate again. Yeah. So I'm like, okay.
You're in 4th grade. Can you jot down the license plate?
It happened again. About 2 months later, we're at my Catholic school.
Just getting dicks flung at you.
And they had a chain link fence between the school and the sidewalk. And this is where all the girls played volleyball. The 4th grade players of volleyball. So we're in our plaid uniform. I mean, talk about a pedophile stream.
Super asking
playing for volleyball. Yeah, we're totally. I mean, uniform,
just like
socks,
Hughes. Yeah,
fucking like saddle shoes or whatever.
Those are so hot.
So the guy pulls over and he's like, come to this like beater car. And I think he was completely naked. I can't remember. But he's
my God,
jacking off. And these girls
jacking off?
Yeah. And all these girls are like, oh my God, there's a guy there. I see that. And they're like dying and they're saying it. And I'm like, give me a paper and pen. And I like, I'm like, I think this is a Chevy. And so then somebody finally goes to tell a teacher. The guy drives off. We get into the principal's office, who's a nun. And
how does she? Was she like, what happened?
She was like, I mean, she was feeling for us, but she was kind of a bitch because she was a bitchy nun anyway.
Nuns are always, my mom went to Catholic school too, and she's traumatized.
Like,
and what'd you say to her? Like,
we said, look, it's not going to be a problem. When the police get here, here's the license.
Yeah.
And they're all crying, are we going to have to go on trial? Like, they didn't know, They're 9 years old.
This isn't about you, Tiffany.
Yeah. So then they called everybody's mother, and everybody's mother picked them up.
So they called your mom.
And my mom, and at the real estate office, and she's like, she's fine. She's been through this before. I'll pick her up at the normal time.
She's like, adjust this into a monologue.
Like, I'm not leaving this open house. So you're strong. Inexperienced. Like, you're strong. And then they said, well, we do want you to know because of your daughter. They already caught him. He already admitted it. It's over with. Like they
caught him
right away because of the license.
Hell yeah! You're a local hero. Yeah, you really are. You probably saved somebody from getting touched eventually.
Yeah. So I think that's why when my own sexual harassment thing happened with the owner of Podcast One, I just didn't put up with it. The next day, I don't know if you guys know the story, the brief story.
Can we go through this?
Yeah,
I would love to.
So I was there for a year, and I started doing the podcast thinking, I guess it's a low point in my career. I guess I got to have a podcast like every other loser. Okay,
we hear ya. Yeah, man. When we started this, I was like, I guess we're gonna just
we're gonna be that like, well, who doesn't have a podcast? Like, just like, yeah.
My best friend, your favorite podcast, she's obsessed with you.
Thank you very much.
I need to tell you that.
So I kind of was like, all right, I'll try this. At least it like disciplines me to do something every week. After writing and producing and appearing on Chelsea Lately for 7 years, that discipline was something I really liked, and the daily topics and all that. So I was like, okay, I just want to feel productive all the time, if I'm not on the road or whatever. So I started to do it, and I went right to Podcast One, and the owner was like, oh, we'll have you on in 2 weeks, whatever. I'm like, great. And I was like, I had no idea how many people were listening. Like, I didn't even want to ask. I'm like, because I didn't see a reflection in my social media. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that actually, like, a lot of people were listening. So it started to do better, and Norm Pattis, the owner, is like this older guy, like 75, and he's showing you his Laker ring and his Laker tickets, and he's got a boat, and that's all fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But then he's like, here's my gun. I'm an LA sheriff, and he's like strapped.
Here's my gun.
Yeah.
What did you think when he said that?
Well, I am someone that never, like, the first thing I asked my husband on a date was, like, how do you feel about guns? I never want a gun in the house. My dad was a Marine. My dad was a Republican who gave to gun control from my whole life. I did reports on it because he had all the information of why it makes sense. So, like, I'm extremely lame. I just told you I've lost podcasts and stuff. I can't even work a VCR. Like, not the VCRs around. Whatever. I can't even work Netflix. Like, I can't be in charge of a gun.
Right.
Like, every hotel I go to, I have to call the engineer to help me work the shower. Like, fucking, I should not be working a gun. Okay.
Some of them are.
Someone else wants to have a gun, fine, but they make me very nervous.
I understand completely.
We don't have a gun.
So you've never gone to a shooting range?
Never been to a shooting range.
I want to go because I am terrified of guns.
I take that back. I went once when I was in my 20s. I went to like an indoor one.
Yeah.
And I hated it. It was too loud. The gun was heavy.
Yeah,
it wasn't for me. And thank God my husband feels the same way. And well, the main thing is like, you know, you watch a couple Datelines where if the person didn't have the gun and killed the perpetrator, they wouldn't be doing 25 years in jail because they think that the perpetrator really wasn't a perpetrator and that she was dating him. I don't know. So I'm like, why even put yourself in that position?
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. But of course, to everybody that has a gun, good for you.
But also, the argument of for every bad guy with a gun, there's a nice guy with a gun that could save you. Let's not put the saving on the pedestrians. You know what I mean?
Just, for me, it's
Don't say, well, citizens will handle a murderer.
I think the odds are better. Weird things happen where my sister, I have a restraining order against my sister, and my sister tried to, and this is all my podcast, to go back and find the serial
Wait, you
killer.
have a restraining order against your sister?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it got very heated, and she tried to come in our house, and my husband, pushed her off of him, and she, the cops came and everything. And they're calling me, is she armed? Are you armed? And I'm like, no, no, we're not. And I don't believe she is either.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if we did have a gun, my husband would be sitting in jail right now. 100%.
Pull it on
even though
sister?
it's our house, he would have been sitting in jail. So I'm like, that's for me, that's what works. But I understand if whatever your situation is, your situation.
Also, you just probably just don't want to.
Where did I get into the gun?
So the owner of this podcast showed you his gun, said he's an LA sheriff.
I don't like that. That made me nervous.
Yeah.
Even though he has a right to be. I don't know how he became an LA sheriff. I don't know who he gave
It's
to.
a weird thing to do.
Okay. So that always made me nervous. And, he's always like making little comments and things like that, and you just kind of do it.
Sexual?
Yeah, like, that's the dress you should be wearing every day, or something like that. But I was like,
and how'd you?
And I was like, oh, okay, like old fart. But then I was like, okay, I'm not going to come down to where his office is anymore. I'll just, when I get to my place on the second floor, I'll just call because I love talking to the booker like face to face, this girl. So his office was around the side, so I'd awfully go in and be like, who are we looking at for guests? And so I kind of stopped doing that, and I would just call her from upstairs. And so then he came up, and I was doing, and I see him, and I'm like, it makes me so uncomfortable. And then I start doing, I'm like, hey, I can't talk to you. I lied. I'm like, can't talk to you after this. I have a meeting. He's like, that's all right. I just want to tell you your podcast's doing well, whatever. And then we can give you the tape for your thing. So then, because I start doing this Third Love bra ad.
Oh, yeah.
It's memory foam hands, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and I go, and I start messing up, and I go, okay, you're making me really nervous, because now he's in the room.
Oh, God.
And I go, you're making me really nervous. And then he's like, can I ask you, these are memory foam hands. Can I hold your breast? And he comes around.
Wait,
and I'm like,
you have a recording of that?
Yeah. 1 second. Oh, my God. I can't deal. I don't have any time. Hi. No, I'm just about to do my last ad.
You're doing what?
My last ad.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Hold on.
You're doing good.
Oh, thank you.
Your numbers are going up nicely.
Okay.
We're getting more interest in the show.
Okay.
More, it's good.
All right, let me just do this really quick.
Sure.
Okay. You guys, I love Third Love's 24/7 t-shirt bra because it's the most comfortable bra that I've ever owned. And it's just super smoothing, and it's invisible under every outfit, which is great, especially when you're wearing a light t-shirt, which is so popular. It's the summer. And I think it's because the cups are made out of memory foam, so it molds to the shape and truly gives you the perfect fit. So here's the thing. You want a bra that's comfortable. You're making me nervous now. Okay, let me do one more.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can I hold your breasts?
No.
Would that help?
No.
These are memory foam.
Memory foam hands.
My memory.
Yes.
Anyway.
So then I go, okay, so I go, go away or whatever I say.
Oh, my God.
And I immediately, I'm like shaking and I leave. And I called him that day and I said, hey, my year contract's up in 2 weeks. And I want to let you know I'm no longer going to be doing a podcast. It's just not, I wasn't making any money there. And I go, and I'm just not making any money because I just didn't want to go there anymore after that.
Yeah.
I didn't, so I said, I'm out. And he's like, all right, well, just know you can't do a podcast anywhere else. And I'm like,
what a fucking
I go, how
loser.
can I not do a podcast anywhere else? I'm like, my kid could start a podcast. And so I'm like, wait, do I not own Juicer? And threatened them. So finally,
God,
3 months and several $1,000s and the tapes of Trump and everything. And I'm with my friend. And my friend was kind of like jaded about it. She's like, oh, who hasn't been sexually harassed or something?
Whoa.
And I go, yeah, I mean, I was. I go, but I'm sure in my situation, people will say, oh, you're a dirty stand-up comic. Like, you should be able to put up with that. I just didn't know what the attitude would be.
Right.
Because I'm like, I wasn't shoved up against the wall.
People say some evil shit.
My crotch wasn't grabbed. I just was made to feel uncomfortable by the person that was in power that could cancel me, not give me ads, whatever. So I go, oh, I have that tape because I have everything, I have the audio. He knew it was being audio tape. He knew it was being taped.
I can't believe he gave that back to you.
Because he didn't.
Oh my God. What a fucking
Because
idiot.
people like this get away with it for so long that he didn't think he was doing anything wrong.
Ridiculous.
Because our society, there's no consequences
There's
for
no
these fucking
consequences.
people.
And so then
my
I go, hey guys, like I'm just going to play this and you tell me what you think. So I play it. And the audience, I couldn't believe the response. I mean, every single person was like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've been listening to you for a year and your whole voice and demeanor and everything changed. I didn't even really recognize that in me, that it was so. And so then there were some articles that were written about it and I was willing to talk about it. And he's a UC regent, which means you're appointed on the board of all the UC schools in California. He's appointed by Jerry Brown, our governor, and until 2026, so he'll be like 89 or whatever that is.
And that's one of the appointments that you can't can quit, but otherwise you're in it for life until that
I'm
date.
like, you know what? This isn't right. Our schools have gone up 1,400% in 30 years. And I'm like, and this person who's worth $350 million gets to make the decisions for our 20-year-old daughters and sons. And I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So a couple people started to catch the articles, girls that listened to me, whatever. UC Berkeley wrote an article, some people wrote an article, but they get kind of like buried and squashed and no one would have me on their TV show. No one wanted to talk to me about it. I finally spooted in on a CNN, and the girls started to like shake because somehow they know him, and they're like, "Well, we need to talk to him about this." And I'm like, "Well,
no, you don't. You don't. This is what happened. I have a recording.
I'm like,
oh my God.
Everybody else, no one has proof like me, and here I have proof.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but so it comes out, and he does he writes this thing. Well, if you were offended, I'm sorry, it was Joe. So I'm like, whatever. Wow. So now with the resurgence, that was a year ago. Then with the resurgence, they start to hear, they want him off again, the board. And he said they should be ashamed of themselves. There was a protest at UC San Francisco with at least 30 students. And he said they should be ashamed of themselves. They're using this opportunity to what was funny a year ago. And I'm like, it was never a funny.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah, it was never funny.
So what's the current, where is this guy? He's still doing his thing?
He's still doing it.
And can we say his name?
Yeah, it's Norm Pattis. He's a UC regent. Right. I don't want this person making decisions about my life. I did not sue because I'm like, if I sued, maybe it would have ended up to be a financial amount. And then I would have had to sign something that says I can never, ever talk about this again.
Yeah, fuck that.
And that money would have meant nothing to him. To be honest, I think the amount wouldn't have changed my life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I much prefer to just give him shitty day after shitty day. Did you have a shitty day today? Because another article came out. Not as much of the press that I would like, because I think this is important.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm really passionate about all the other stories that come about. Now people are like, well, shouldn't there be levels of it? And, Al Franken is not as bad as Louis C.K., but Louis C.K. is definitely not as bad as, Weinstein. And my attitude is, I fucking love it. Tell your story. If you have a story, tell it. Why can't you tell your story? The girl's not asking for Al Franken's resignation.
No.
She had a story. She wanted to tell it.
Yeah, I mean,
she can fucking tell it.
This is what's fascinating me about this time. It's very exciting. When the Women's March happened, I was like, Oh my God, yes. And then I read Rebecca Traister's book, All the Single Ladies, kind of at a similar time, and she was pointing out how politicians, and she was giving examples from political speeches of like how they're trying to suppress single women, like unwed, single, childless women are the scariest thing to conservative Republicans, mainly because women have. If every woman voted, Hillary would have won. If every woman voted, and I feel like women are more powerful than they realize. And the Women's March was this a great example of like, holy shit, look what happens when we all show up. And now these women are like, and this happened to me, and so, and this did, and it's so exciting.
I feel like it is really exciting, and if a couple guys. Possibly are casualties, and maybe they lose something that, whatever, in someone's opinion, they don't think they should lose. I don't fucking care. If Louis C.K. didn't think it was a problem, why wasn't it at 5 minutes in his last special? I used to whack off in front of women. Glad I don't do it anymore. Why wasn't that in his act?
I don't know.
Because he knew it was wrong.
You know what?
He knew it was wrong, and he was trying to keep those girls quiet. And when those girls tried to tell people, they were telling them, be quiet. And what people don't realize, that you guys know, all it takes is for him to feel like those girls, any one of his victims, and I'm sure there's many more that have chosen not to speak up.
He pushed someone into a bathroom, and it wasn't the person he apologized to about it. So that's
there's so many.
I mean,
you don't keep doing.
It's like,
he
bro.
accidentally apologized to the wrong person.
He apologized for doing the wrong thing.
He was like, sorry, I pushed her into a bathroom, and she was like, that wasn't
you
that
just
wasn't
jerked
me.
off
That
in
was,
front of me.
I was
When did
just
he
a
do
jerk
that?
off
How did I
girl.
miss that?
It was in the Times article. In his trailer. The one in his I forget what actress it was, but yeah, and he apologized for the wrong thing, and she's like, that wasn't me, dude. And he's like, I'm sorry for what I did to you then.
That's like how.
But what's happening though is it's interesting, and I want to talk about what. I'm curious what you think about this. So women are coming forward, they're telling their stories. They're not, like you said, the women who told that story about Al Franken, who was in that fucking photo. It's fucking disgusting and gross, okay? And she came forward and she's like, oh, now that we're all saying shit, I want everyone to know how often this happens. It happened to me with one of the guys that's a perceived good guy.
Right.
And it doesn't mean he's a shitty senator. I think Al Franken's work in the Senate is incredible. That was a fucking real shitty thing he did. But I feel like with Louis C.K., for example, when that piece came out, HBO pulled everything he was in off. But those women didn't ask for that to happen. And I feel like that, it almost discourages women from coming forward, because then it's like, can you imagine going, if I come forward about so-and-so that's really famous, HBO might pull all of his specials off of their platform. Like, that's a big thing. I don't know how to feel about that, because
I understand now, like, what, and if more and more come out, there might just not be enough programming. I mean,
that's fine. More room for women.
Yeah,
I'm not mad about that.
But I mean, I feel like that's the network's choice to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel badly for anybody that was. What about the people that co-starred in the Daddy Issues or whatever the movie was? I Love You, Daddy. Like, imagine like you think this is going to be your big break, and then that happens. And I understand all that, but at the same time, I'm like, I mean, if they choose to do that, then they choose to do that. I think Hollywood at least is taking better stance than Washington in that respect. So I think, but with Louis C.K., look. Did I ever meet Louis C.K.? No. I'm not a comedy darling. I'm not the alternative comic that, fucked a bunch of ugly comics in my life. I didn't, okay? I wanted a nice, normal guy. I wanted to live in Woodland Hills. That just wasn't my path.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm asshole buddies with Louis C.K. and he put me in 5 of his shows. So when it happened, I was like, I don't care. Good. Because I think what happened in the past is certain victims of his, he may have known that or felt threatened, or maybe, hey, I heard Susie and whatever, we're talking about how you did this sick thing. Oh, anyway. And then maybe these girls have, maybe they sold a show to ABC. I'm not saying he did this, but all it takes is for Louis to call his guy at ABC and say, I don't think they're very funny, and they're talking shit about me. Don't worry, Louis. Their show will never see the light of day. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
All it takes is someone to piss off someone's wife at a cocktail party, and their thing is thrown away. And that's the wife. So it's like, when people go understand the blackballing thing, I'm like, it's one person's decision.
Totally.
Whether you're going to get something or not that could be life-changing or keep you from something.
Yeah, unfortunately, performers are a dime a dozen. Like, we're replaceable.
There's always someone willing to do it.
Unless we are at Louis C.K. level. And then it's like, you're going to notice if Louis C.K. stops making content. Like, you're not going to notice if
it feels
I do.
like what I've been noticing, though, is I am glad that shit's getting pulled. Because then it's like, Kevin Spacey, they gotta reshoot all of his fucking scenes. Well, he's been like trying to fuck 14-year-olds for a while, so that's to me, I'm like, yay, do something about it.
And also, who's going to want to go see that movie when
I know.
all they're going to think about is that? So I think they're trying to save the movie.
But I think have been fucked over for worse. Though comedians are consistently making jokes on Twitter and losing careers.
I think so.
Which people should be careful about Twitter too. I don't think it's. I always say it's no tweet is worth 50 retweets if it's going to think about what you tweet. It's true. It's just be smart about it.
It seems to me, though, the people that are fans of the work of Kevin Spacey and Louis C.K., just for example, it's almost like they blame it on the people coming forward that for two things. One, now I love him. He's my favorite comedian. Now you're telling me we're not telling you anything, first of all, but they feel like this conflict of can I enjoy his art? But that's up to you. Like, don't fucking throw that on me. But also, I feel like people get mad at the victims that have come forward for his shit being pulled, and I don't know. That's
why
been bugging me lately.
That's why when I told my stories about on the podcast, I first started being honest about my sibling relationships. I have a dysfunctional adult sibling relationship, and I called it serial sister. And it really struck a nerve with a lot of people because a lot of people are very embarrassed to ever admit that maybe they don't speak to their sister or their brother, or they would like to cut off all ties with this toxic person, but it's their sibling and their parents guilt them into doing things, but you want to protect your children from this fucking nightmare that you lived in. So when I started to reveal that, I realized that, a lot of people feel like that, but I kept waiting for people to say to me, it's horrible that you're telling this story about your sister. And nobody said it, except a couple people in my family. Why you
didn't want to fucking hear
you
it.
shouldn't tell this story. And I'm like, you know what? Why keep the secrets of those that treated you badly? Whether it's your horrible ex-husband, your priest. Why? If somebody or a guy that date raped you or someone that sexually assaulted you. So if you didn't like the way Louis C.K. treated you 12 years ago, why can't you share that story?
Yeah.
Why
it's
can't
your
you?
story.
Yeah, and what happens.
Yeah.
Why do you have to keep it a secret that someone made you feel like shit? And that's what I kind of love about this podcast world, because there isn't the rules of all that type of stuff. And I love it. And I hope it never changes because, you know what? Keep people on their toes. And I do think that, I'm Catholic. I was raised in a Catholic household. My kids go to Catholic school now. And when I put my kids in Catholic school, I would get all the jokes from all the comics that are atheists. Like, what are you doing? Your kid's going to be molested. And I'm like, you don't understand. Since the scandal, have you heard in the last 10 years of a priest molesting somebody? No, because they fucking cleaned it out. They make it rules. They're not left alone with anybody. And me as a parent have to take a 3-hour class. They give you fingerprinted.
Wow.
Like the safest place that your kid can be is at a Catholic school.
Because people have talked about it. It's been outed.
Because it all came out. So I'm like, if this all comes out now, in 10 years, we're going to be like, wow, isn't that great? Like that sexual harassment never happens at the bank or rarely happens.
That'd be
because
awesome.
the hushing of it, because that would happen too in the sexual harassment case. Like they would take the guy from the bank and move him to another bank, just like they did with the priest. So
They do
I
with
feel
police
like
officers, with teachers, with every fucking profession. It's always
so
the men
more
always
they,
get cradled.
So the minute somebody now says a story, they believe the woman and they do investigation, and if it's true, that's it. Sorry, you lost your chance.
Yeah.
And then our sons are going to be raised in an environment where it just doesn't occur to them to be a creep. They know you just don't do that. So
yeah, because there's consequences, and now you have examples of there being consequences.
Yeah.
And this person being publicly shamed. I mean, honestly, I think shame does have a place, and I think
Why not?
sometimes the only justice you can get when you go to the police and they don't fucking believe you, or it's like your word against his. No one was there. You have innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah.
So the only justice you can get is by telling your story.
What did you think about Sarah Silverman's speech?
I didn't read it yet. I saw the article, but that she was saying how it's very uncomfortable. Like it's just weird because this guy's my friend.
Yeah.
But I didn't look. Did you end up reading it? I remember you told me
It was on her show.
It was on her Hulu show. I don't have your Hulu login anymore.
I'll give it to you.
I appreciated that she addressed it.
Yeah.
I thought she did an
What did
honest
she-
job. She just basically said, I'm going to talk about the masturbating elephant in the room. Like, Louis C.K. is my friend. It was like quiet, like people weren't laughing really. And she just like, he's my friend and it's hurtful. But basically, someone can do a bad thing and all the good things that they did for me as a friend won't necessarily be erased, but I'm very sad about this.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. Like, when it happened with Bill Cosby, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure his, Felisa Rashad or whatever, only had fabulous relationships with him.
Yeah.
I mean, when people used to say, OJ, nicest guy in the world, the caddy at the LA Country Club, just adored him, he tipped great. I'm not denying that he wasn't a delight to the caddy.
Yeah.
But he cut two people's throats.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like,
you can be both.
Yeah, of course.
And everyone's so uncomfortable with that idea.
Yeah.
But you can be both. You can be a rapist and a comedian.
And a delight.
Yeah. To some people.
I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer, that's
rape.
how he was a serial killing people, is because he was such a fucking delight. That's how he got people into his apartment in the first place, and then your head's in a freezer. I mean, you have to charm your way into things. I mean, anyone in the entertainment business should absolutely know that. I know a ton of people who are terrible in the entertainment business, but they can turn it on when they need to.
You mean terrible, like they're not even talented?
No, terrible people.
Pieces
Like,
of shit.
terrible.
Person.
but I mean, also untalented. I mean, that's I know everyone.
But it's so interesting. Like, I know there's rumors I've heard from like very trusted people that would never, I believe them, about comedians that everybody would know that are famous. Like, one in particular that's very famous and on television, and that he's a rapist. And I'm just sitting back on when's that going to come to surface? It's starting to.
I heard bubbling that's coming out soon.
Yeah, it's coming out.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
When?
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, you'll tell me off air. I'm just,
But is it? It's kind of. I'm like. It's kind of fucked up that I don't want to say it, but I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I just think, I mean, we heard from somebody. We don't even, I think if we had heard from
the person directly, maybe, but
or
still.
from the person that he raped.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if we heard from her, then I would feel comfortable. But we heard from a guy who is his friend who heard. That's not enough. Yeah. I mean, I 100% also believe that person, but that's not enough information to be like, because then it just seems like we're trying to break rates on guys we fucked.
I think, if you're the victim, this is the best time to come forward. If you want to come forward, then it should be you that comes forward.
It's the most supportive time to come forward, which is something exciting.
You want to be, and keep it. But that's what sucks about too. Like when you do come forward, then all of a sudden you're not really necessarily in control of the narrative, because like the Cosby shit, no one gave a shit about it until someone snuck in and taped Hannibal doing his bit that he's been doing for months,
and it reopened people's eyes and made them go, "That's right, I did hear that," and they went forward with it, and then. All these women had each other, and the truth is sadly in numbers, because I'm sure there's a lot of single people that are like, oh, if I could just find two more girls that could back my story, but my story is still true. And it's just, I always tell, like, when we would watch like a 20/20 on it, and my husband's watching it with me, and he really gets it. But a couple years ago when we were watching like the victims of Cosby, he was like hearing these horrible stories, and he's like, I mean, I don't get it. The next day I would walk right into LAPD and I'd be like, this mother. I'm like, because you're a 6'3" white male that since you were about 13 was too large to be thrown into a van. Okay? But a girl can always be thrown into a van. Most girls. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm like, you just don't get that. It'll never. And when guys say, yes, I can be sexually harassed and stuff, I'm like, yeah, you can, but it'll never be the same. Yeah. Because we're different. We're different entities. A man and a woman are different no matter what. We're different. Okay,
so going back to your youth, you went to Catholic school.
Yes.
What was the sex education, if any, from your parents and from your school?
So my mom told me, don't ever have sex before you're married, because minute the guy gets it, he'll run. I didn't realize that the minute they don't get it, they run.
Your mom seems like a real character.
Yeah, she was really funny. Yeah, she was great. So she So
she didn't want you to do that because then they'll run away.
They'd run it. Like the minute they get it, they're like, I'm done. That's what she would tell me.
Wham, bam, thank
and then
you,
she's like, and won't you feel awful about yourself? So I was like, okay. So, I just don't think she wanted like pregnant teens. And also back then, you'd watch a movie and the pregnant teen, the parents would